Hey guys, I'm pretty excited about this project. I need you to have two different color markers and your template and your paper plate initially. And we are going to put our paper plate on this template and we are going to mark with our darker color these circle lines on the plate. So I'm just going to extend the circle lines so they line up, and what those are going to be our primary cuts. And then I would like you to take your second colored marker, your lighter colored marker, and mark where these triangles are, and that will set us up for success in prepping the bowl cuts. So then that way we all have everything lined up. Now that we've marked those marks on the outer rim, we're going to take our circle template and we're going to take our pencil, and you're going to make sure that it's centered all the way around, so it's not over here. You can use this rim that's in the middle of the plate to make sure that your circle is centered. And you're going to lightly draw a pencil circle around it. Perfect. Now the reason I had you do the ones around it first is because sometimes when we do this center one, we squish the plate and then it doesn't line up to the template very much. So we are going, in this first step, we're going to cut from the darkest line, those circle mark lines, all the way in to this pencil line. So we're going to do that for each and every item. So these are going to act as our primary guides for those secondary lines, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So now if we tried to make a bowl out of just these cuts, it wouldn't work, and I'll show you why, because there would be too much overlapping. So after you make that cut, you're going to fold in each section. You're just going to keep it nice and straight. I'm going to fold it in all the way around. Okay. So this actually now lines up nicely with the circle we drew on the back. But if you fold it all the way up, look what happens. Like, we can't weave that into a bowl. Like, that's not gonna work, right? So what our next step to do is to look at these secondary lines that we cut, or excuse me, we drew. So each one is on either side of a darker line. You're going to cut from that secondary line into the first cut that you made. So now we're going to make these little wedges. So now you're going to cut on either side. So from the outside over to the cut. From the outside over to the cut. Okay, so I cut all of those extra pieces off. Excuse me. So see how this all now lines up. So those were now cut out. And so when we flip it over, it now will make a nice little bowl. I don't have the overlapping that I did before. So this is something we can weave. But before we weave, what I would like you to do is I'd like you to flatten this back out, and I would like you to color the inside bottom of the bowl. And if you would like, you can also color the outside bottom of the bowl, because we are going to weave together the sides. So therefore we are not going to have any yarn here. So I'd like you to you can make a spiral pattern with lots of different colors. You can put your name in it. Mother's Day is coming up. You could put a heart and your name in it, so you could give it as a gift perhaps. Or you can do whatever you want to do, but I would like you to decorate it now while it's flat because that's going to be easy. So whatever you decorate with, make sure you give it a second to dry. I would suggest crayons or pencils, colored pencils, because that will stay dry. Markers might bleed and get a little bit messy, and watercolors won't dry. So stick with crayons or colored pencils. Decorate the bottom of your bowl, inside and out if you prefer. If you do the outside, make sure you put your name on it. I want you to sign your work, so I am going to put my initials on it. So then and then I'm also going to put 2021 because I like to know when I make things. So if you do decorate the back of your bowl or the upside down, the bottom of your bowl, make sure your name is on it with a date. And now we're going to decorate this and we're going to color this before we start to weave. All right. Hopefully you can see this. I took my colored pencils and I made sort of a swirly pattern, which will mimic what are our lines, our strings from our yarn. So that's what I did in this color pattern. And I picked out my first yarn color that I'm going to use. I appreciate you guys being super patient and sharing because it's hard to wait your turn. But if you could please take the string, pull the string out from the middle because it makes it so much easier. So I am going to pull out a couple, I would say, just a little bit, maybe a couple of yards. So this is going to be my first color and there's probably going to be a lot of it. And then I will cut that and then put this back so other people can use it. So then we're going to get started. So the first string is the most difficult, and you can do it a couple of different ways. If you'd like to tie it on to your first tab, you can. I am just going to hold it with my other hand and I'm going to weave back and forth. So front and back and front and back. And what's important with our bowl is I want you to sort of keep the tabs a little bit folded closed. So on the very first time it doesn't matter because it still can be flat. But here I have, now I'm coming around to where it starts to overlap for the second one. And now this is going, look at that, look at the neat little pattern. So now we're getting a whole complete row of my first color. And this is what's so fun about weaving. And now I'm going to be able to not hold on to that first piece of yarn because now it is sticking nicely. So once you do that very first part, that's the hardest one you'll have to weave. Now it's going to be important for you to keep the tabs folded in. So then that way your bowl starts to take shape. And I've laid my yarn over on this side because that's where I'm coming around to. And I want to keep my tabs folded in a little bit more. So I keep weaving them back and forth. So front and back and front and back. And what's nice is we have odd number of tabs. And so that's why this works. If we had used an even number of tabs, the weaving would not have worked. So the odd number around in a circle is required because you need to get that alternating pattern that is inherent of weaving. So, okay, it's a lot to handle to go back and forth and keep the tabs in, but what you can do is you can also go back afterwards and slide things down, but we don't need to do that now. We're just working on building up the sides and keeping that bowl shape. So I'm going to continue with the rest of my green. I wanted to pass along this tip. I was initially trying to weave with the bowl on the ground. It's much easier if you hold it, or I have found it to be much easier if you hold it sideways. And then that way you're automatically bending up the tabs and you're keeping it into the bowl shape that you want. Because if we don't keep the tabs up, we're not going to have any walls to our bowls. and it won't be a bowl, it'll be a woven plate instead. So that has helped me, and hopefully that'll help you. If you need to, if your hands aren't as large as mine, you can sort of prop it up on its side and roll it a little bit. And so you're going over and under and over and under. Okay, so this is the next step. You're gonna switch colors. So my light green is starting to come to its end. So I'm going to tie it together. You can tie it in a square knot, if you guys know square knots, or you can tie it, this is probably the easier way to do it, is you put the two of them together and then you just knot it. And then you can slide the knot to the end. It doesn't matter if there's lots of extra because we can just tuck it and hide it. But now my string will continue. If you'd like to, trimming these up will make your life a little bit easier down the road, but it's not required. So now I'm going to, I just continue doing what I was doing, over and under, over and under, and now I'm on to my other color. All right, it's time for me to switch to another color. And as you can see, before I switch to this other color, some of my weaving has gotten a little loose. So I'm gonna squish that down so it looks a little bit better. And I have more room for my final color. Now remember when we were making the marks on our paper plate, we were supposed to use a lighter color for those wedges, and that's why I asked you to do a lighter color, because those are still on the side of the bowl. So hopefully we've cut away the darker color and only have to compete with the lighter color. So I'm gonna make my little knot again. So just twisting it around and having it go through the hole and pulling the knot nice and tight. So my color transition is made. And I've also, it's funny how different positions work as the weaving gets better. So now that my shape is stronger, I'm toying around with keeping the bowl upright, and that seems to be working too. Don't worry about these little color transitions sticking out. We're gonna take care of those once we're finished the weaving part. Okay, so I have come up to the sort of the top of my bowl. You do need to leave space. We can't go all the way to the very end of your pieces of paper plate. So now I'm pushing down my weaving just a little bit so I still have a lip available. And now I have this last piece that I need to finish. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to wrap it around this last little tab so that way it's nice and snug, and then cut it off. And then take my pencil or your finger and you're just gonna tuck it into the weaving. So then that way it's all hidden and you won't be able to see it. So it's tucked right in. And I'm also going to find all of these color transitions, and this one's poking out and I would like to poke it back in. So I'm gonna poke it back in and have it slip under the weaving around it. I don't want to draw a lot of pencil on it, so on the yarn, but it's just gonna hide right in there. I'm gonna see, I don't think I have any others on the outside. And I do have this guy on the inside, and I'm going to hide him too. Oh, it's funny, they by coincidence, they ended up lining up. So sorry, you can't see that. And I'm going to hide it or blend it in. And now I'm going to fold back the very top of this. So the edge of our paper plate is actually going to make a nice little rim for our bowl. So I'm going to go all the way around and fold that down. So ta-da, there's my bowl. I am totally pleased with this. I think this looks so cute. I did slide down my weaving a little bit farther, so then that way the edge of the bowl is a little bit more pronounced, and then my weaving is a little bit closer together. So like with this piece of yarn. I tried to squish it down a little bit so it looks a little bit more solid. But how cool is that? I am totally delighted. I think this looks really cool. I have, this guy doesn't seem to want to stay tucked, so I can take some glue and try to glue it to the side if I want. If you don't have liquid glue, I'll leave a couple of glue bottles with the teachers so that they have it just in case. But I think this is an awesome container. I'm really excited about it. I hope you like it. Oh, look, here I have put my rubber bands in it, paper clips, doodads. I can't wait to see what you guys make. Have fun.